My friends, there comes a time in history when nations stand at a crossroads, when decisions made in silence echo across generations. Today, we find ourselves watching one of the greatest global power shifts of our time, a new balance rising between the East and the West. My friends, there comes a time in history when nations stand at a crossroads, when every decision, every handshake, every word spoken behind closed doors determines not just political futures, but the destiny of entire generations. And right now, as the world watches the dance between two great powers, America and India, we are witnessing that very moment. Once upon a time, the world's stage had one spotlight. It shone brightly on Washington, and wherever that light turned, nations followed. But today, that spotlight is splitting. A new glow is rising from the East, from the heart of innovation, from the spirit of a nation that refuses to be underestimated any longer. The power dynamic is shifting. The old order is trembling. And the world has begun to realize that the 21st century will not be ruled by dominance, but by dependence, mutual, strategic, and inevitable. You see, this is not the India of yesterday. This is not the India that waited for permission to dream. This is an India that has learned to create, to lead, to transform. Once called the land of call centers, now it's the land of coders, scientists, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. Once considered a market, now it's a maker of markets. From Silicon Valley to space exploration, the fingerprints of Indian innovation are everywhere. And this truth can no longer be ignored. The United States needs India now more than ever. It's not about politics. It's about partnership. It's not about competition. It's about completion. Because in the global orchestra of technology, defense, and diplomacy, no single instrument can carry the melody alone. America may have the resources, but India has the resilience. America may have the systems, but India has the soul. And together, they create a harmony the world cannot afford to lose. Now, let's speak truthfully. Leaders rise and fall, policies change, but reality remains constant. The global economy is intertwined like never before. Trade, data, supply chains, energy, all flow through invisible threads connecting nations. And among those threads, India stands as a critical bridge between the developing and developed world. Whether it's microchips or medicine, digital infrastructure or democracy, India's role has become too vital to be dismissed. So when a leader in the West thinks about being tough on India, he must first count the cost. Can America truly risk alienating the very partner that balances China's growing influence? Can America afford to disrupt the technology pipelines that power its own industries? Can it afford to lose the trust of 1 billion people who represent not only a market but a movement of ideas, of ambition, of unstoppable growth? The answer, my friends, is clear. No nation, no matter how powerful, can walk into the future alone. The age of dominance has ended. The age of collaboration has begun. The leaders who understand this will thrive. Those who cling to pride and old power games will fade into the shadows of history. India's strength today is not built on fear, but on faith in education, in enterprise, in endurance. And the world is beginning to notice. From Silicon Valley boardrooms to global summits, the conversation has changed. People no longer ask, can India catch up? They ask, how can we keep up with India? So let us not talk about who can be tougher. Let us talk about who can be wiser. Let us not ask who will dominate, but who will collaborate. Because the future does not belong to those who rule by force. It belongs to those who lead with vision. And in that vision, The bond between America and India is not just a political necessity, it is a destiny. A destiny that says, when the West and the East walk hand in hand, the whole world moves forward. You see, this is not the India of yesterday. This is not the India that waited quietly in the background of the global conversation, hoping to be noticed. This is a nation reborn through resilience, discipline, and unstoppable vision. This is an India that has walked through decades of struggle, stood tall against doubt, and turned its challenges into opportunities. Once dismissed as an emerging nation, it now emerges every day, in technology, in innovation, in the way it dares to dream beyond boundaries. The world used to call India the land of call centers, the place where work was outsourced. But today, the world looks to India as the source of innovation, of new ideas, of breakthroughs that define the digital age. The same voices that once spoke of India as a follower now speak of India as a leader. Look at the skyline of Bengaluru, glowing with startups that compete with Silicon Valley. Look at Hyderabad, the beating heart of pharmaceutical research. Look at the corridors of space research in Chennai, where rockets built with limited budgets reach the same heavens that billion-dollar programs aim for. India no longer waits for validation, it creates it. Its engineers power the code behind the world's largest platforms. Its doctors heal beyond borders. Its thinkers redefine technology, education, and sustainability. The hands that once built for others now build for themselves and for the world. And the beauty of it all is that this rise didn't come from privilege, it came from perseverance. It came from a generation that believed that education, effort, and endurance could change the course of history. And this, my friends, is why the United States cannot afford to look at India through the old lens anymore. The age of dependency has reversed. Today, it is America that needs the partnership, the innovation, and the market that India brings. The new global order is not defined by who has the biggest army or the loudest voice. It is defined by who has the minds that shape tomorrow. And in that arena, India is not a spectator, it is a pioneer. When America looks to the future, to technology, to artificial intelligence, to quantum computing, to medicine, it cannot move forward without India's collaboration. Every smartphone, every chip, every software advancement carries a trace of Indian brilliance. Every global company knows that without Indian innovation, growth slows down. The balance of power is no longer about political alliances, it's about intellectual alliances, and India stands as a cornerstone of that balance. So, when leaders speak of being tough on India, they must understand the true meaning of strength. Strength today is not in confrontation, it is in connection. True power is not shown through sanctions or speeches. It is revealed through the ability to build bridges, not walls. Because the one who chooses cooperation over conflict always stands on the side of the future. India has become the silent backbone of the modern digital economy. Its influence stretches from the labs of California to the factories of Detroit, from the boardrooms of London to the satellites orbiting Earth. Its youth are building not only their own dreams, but fueling the dreams of the world. And that power, that collective energy cannot be dismissed, cannot be ignored, and certainly cannot be controlled. So the question is not whether America can be tough on India. The question is whether it can afford to be. Because the truth is clear. If the West wants progress, it must walk with the East. If it wants innovation, it must work with India. And if it wants a stable, sustainable future, it must stand beside the nation that has learned how to rise again and again, no matter the odds. This is the dawn of a new era, an era not of dominance, but of partnership, an era where nations grow not by overpowering others, but by empowering each other. And in this era, India is not just participating, it is leading. Because in the global orchestra of technology, defense, and diplomacy, no single instrument can carry the melody alone. The sound of progress today is not a solo, it's a symphony. Every nation, every industry, every alliance must play its part in harmony if the world is to move forward. For too long, power was defined by who could play the loudest. But now, power is found in the ability to blend, to listen, to cooperate. And when you listen closely to that global symphony, you'll hear one instrument rising stronger, clearer, and more confident, the voice of India. America may hold the financial baton, but India carries the rhythm of resilience. America may lead with its vast resources, but India leads with its relentless resourcefulness. One has structure, the other has spirit. One builds systems, the other builds stamina. And when those two forces meet logic and heart, precision and passion, the music of innovation is born. That is why no single nation can stand alone anymore, not even the most powerful. In this interconnected world, every action echoes across continents. A decision in Washington can ripple through New Delhi, and a breakthrough in Bengaluru can transform businesses in Boston. This is not coincidence. This is the architecture of the modern era. It is built not on walls, but on networks. Not on control, but on collaboration. And in that network, India has become the pulse that keeps the global heartbeat steady. Think about it, who writes the code that powers the modern digital empire, who develops the vaccines that protect millions, who engineers the systems that run global finance, logistics, and communication. From Silicon Valley to Wall Street, from NASA to the United Nations, you will find Indian talent shaping the frameworks of tomorrow. This is why the old logic of being tough on India is obsolete. The foundation of the global economy is no longer built on isolation. It's built on interdependence. India's contribution doesn't just lie in economics or science. It lies in its philosophy of coexistence. The belief that growth is greatest when shared, that strength is real when it uplifts, not suppresses. That same belief has guided its people through centuries of adversity. While some nations compete for dominance, India competes for development, for progress that benefits humanity, not just itself. This moral compass, this quiet confidence, gives it a unique kind of power, a power that doesn't intimidate but inspires. The world is beginning to understand this. Corporations, governments, and global leaders are realizing that the next big leap in human progress will not come from confrontation, but from collaboration. The greatest weapon of the 21st century is not the missile, it's the mind. And the sharpest minds today are working together, crossing borders, merging cultures, writing a new story for civilization. In that story, America and India are not adversaries or competitors, they are co-authors. When America brings its infrastructure and India brings its intellect, when America brings its wealth and India brings its wisdom, something extraordinary happens. Possibility becomes progress. This partnership doesn't just benefit two nations, it benefits the world. It brings stability in chaos, balance in power, and hope in uncertainty. And that, my friends, is the deeper truth. No single instrument can play the song of the future alone. A solo might sound powerful for a moment, but it fades quickly. A symphony endures, a symphony inspires. The melody of this century is being composed not by one leader or one land, but by the shared dreams of billions. So the question is no longer who will lead, the question is who will learn to listen, because those who can listen, blend and rise together will define the future. And in that harmony of nations, India's rhythm, steady, strong, and spiritual, will continue to guide the world toward a greater, united tomorrow. Now, let's speak truthfully. Leaders rise and fall, policies change, and power shifts from one hand to another. But there are some realities that remain unshaken. The world we live in today is not the same world of 20 years ago, or even 10. The global economy has woven nations together in ways that are irreversible. Trade, technology, data, and energy flow like invisible rivers beneath our feet, connecting us all in a vast web of interdependence. And among those vital threads that hold the fabric of globalization together, India stands as one of the strongest. Look around and you'll see it everywhere. In the vast landscape of digital technology, India has become not just a participant, but a leader. When the pandemic struck and nations stumbled, it was Indian scientists and engineers who helped stabilize the digital infrastructure of the world. When countries faced supply chain chaos, India became a center of resilience and reliability. When healthcare systems struggled, it was Indian-made medicine and vaccines that reached across continents. This is the new face of India, the reliable partner, the dependable friend, and the quiet force that powers the progress of others. In the old world order, America stood at the top of a global pyramid, dictating terms, setting standards, and enforcing its vision. But in the new world order, the pyramid has flattened. It's no longer about who stands above, but who stands beside. And that is where India's strength truly lies, not in its dominance, but in its ability to connect. India's rise has not come from conquest. It has come from cooperation. It has earned its influence not by fear, but by faith, the faith of 1 billion people who believe that hard work and humility can change the destiny of a nation. Every leader in Washington today knows this truth, even if some hesitate to say it aloud. America cannot afford to be tough on India anymore. Because India is no longer a country that can be pressured, it is a country that must be partnered with. The balance of global power now rests not in the might of armies, but in the flow of information, innovation, and intelligence. And in each of these areas, India has become indispensable. When America looks to counterbalance China's growing influence, who stands ready at its side? India, when America seeks to diversify its technology, supply chains, where does it turn? India. When America searches for democratic allies in an uncertain world, who upholds those same values with strength and conviction? Again, India. This is not coincidence, this is consequence. It's the result of decades of consistent growth, of building a foundation of trust, of proving again and again that India is not a risk, but a reward. So imagine for a moment what it would mean for the United States to turn against such a partner. It would mean losing access to one of the world's largest consumer markets, losing collaboration with the world's fastest growing tech industry, and losing the trust of over 1 billion people who believe in partnership, not polarization. Economically, strategically, and morally, it would be a mistake too costly to make. Because in today's world, strength is measured not by how hard you can push, but by how well you can pull others toward common purpose. India is that purpose for the future, a bridge between East and West, tradition and technology, heritage and progress. It stands as living proof that democracy and development can coexist, that growth need not come at the cost of humanity. And that is a truth the world cannot ignore. So when leaders talk of being tough, they should remember that toughness without wisdom becomes arrogance. Real leadership is not about imposing, it is about inspiring. Not about controlling, but collaborating. The nations that will define this century are not those that cling to the past, but those that understand the pulse of the present. And that pulse beats loud and clear from New Delhi to New York, from Hyderabad to Houston. India has earned its place not through force, but through faith, innovation, and resilience. It has turned adversity into advancement, scarcity into strength, and diversity into unity. It has taught the world that progress is not born from privilege, but from perseverance. And now, the time has come for others, even the mightiest nations, to recognize that truth and walk in step with it. Because the world no longer bends to one will, the world now moves to the rhythm of cooperation. Those who adapt will rise, those who resist will fade. And as history unfolds its next chapter, it will remember not those who tried to be tough, but those who chose to be wise. That is why America cannot afford to be tough on India anymore, because the future doesn't belong to those who dominate. It belongs to those who collaborate, who build together, who understand that the strength of one depends on the success of all. And in that shared success, the partnership between these two nations will not only define this decade, it will define the destiny of the world.